right, English 2. So today we are going to talk about research and research methods. And this is one where, again, like nonfiction, understanding nonfiction, it's things that you've done before, but again, our habits are not very strong when it comes to research. And in fact, most of you, when we do research, are going to come to this page right here, and we're going to look up research here, and it's not going to be very successful. In fact, it's going to lead to lots and lots of problems that we want to avoid. So we do want to understand first and foremost what our resources are when we begin a research process. So my hope at this point is that you have a topic, you've read a couple articles on topics that are going to help you, and now we want to understand the resources that we have. So yes, Google is a resource. It's actually a rather fantastic resource. It's one that we want to keep in our back pocket, but research from Google is pretty sketchy. And if you think about our key research objectives, which would include looking over quality information and determining whether that information is quality or not. If you go to Google first, you have to determine whether that information is quality or not before you can do anything else. Other resources are going to allow you to skip that step. The other important piece of information that we want, not only when I'm using research, but also when I'm making that decision, is this research quality or not, is where does it come from? And so, again, Google is just going to spit out all types of stuff. It's going to be hard to determine where good information comes from, as opposed to some of the more traditional sources that we have at our pockets. So we're just going to deal with one place to get our information today, make it nice and simple. And if you don't know where I'm going, then I don't know what you were doing last year. So we're going to look up Afton Library. And of course, we're not talking about the county library this time. We are talking about our beloved Afton Library run by Miss Nelson. Okay, so yes, real world application. You don't have all of Afton's resources there for you. If you go to college, you're going to have way more resources. You're going to have to learn a lot about how to use all of the resources that they have. But when we go to Afton to do research, we actually have very few clear places to do research, and that's good for you. It's better that you have few, I think, than if you have 10,000, because using these types of resources are pretty easy. And specifically today, we're going to talk about Opposing Viewpoints. So I want to go to Opposing Viewpoints. I think you're going to see I already have my sign in here. But if that's what's confusing you, guess what? There's a place for passwords on that high school library website. And these are the passwords. Afton Cougars, I think, that's the password for everything. But certainly the username and password, if you're outside of the district, if you're sitting at home, this is where you would go. You'd put in Afton Cougars, and that's going to get you to Opposing Viewpoints. So why Opposing Viewpoints? I know you heard it from us freshman year. You're hearing it from us now. You're going to hear it from us pretty much every year that we have a critical topic that we're looking for. What does this particular resource do? Well, this is called a database, and it's just one database. It's kind of one big drawer that the internet has used. And what the people at Gale have done is they've written, all this code, all these algorithms that pull specific resources for you. And those resources have already been vetted. They've already been looked over because of the reputation of their where they're coming from. They're able to make it into this box. And Opposing Viewpoints is essentially a lot of boxes inside of that one big warehouse. So I can browse issues, and I can see they've essentially made a box for all of these issues. And so if I wanted to learn about fake news on social media, they've made a specific place just where they've dumped all of their information about that particular topic. We've talked about mental health. So mental health should be a pretty easy one to find on here. There we go. Mental health, mental disorders. I bet if we looked up here, teen suicide would be in that same conversation, right? So I might pick different things depending on what I want to narrow my topic down to. I might want to do something about stress. Let's see if they have something about stress on here. They don't seem to have something specific about stress. So, okay, I'm going to have to look in some other places for that. But let's go ahead and go back down to mental health. And when I look to mental health, it's going to give me a big overview. This is an article that is an overview. And it's going to give me a breakout of all of this information. So I can look at viewpoints. I can look at images, reference, videos, academic journals, websites, etc., etc. For me, I don't want to look at viewpoints. Viewpoints are people's opinions. That's not going to give me good factual information. I might not even want to look at news. News is going to give me maybe news stories about these types of things. Academic journals, harder to read, but it's going to give me more detailed factual information. Magazines are going to be kind of a spread between opinions, maybe something a little more academic and something with news. So I can just go to news, and it's already narrowed down for me just by news and just by relevance on the topic of mental health. And this is going to give me some articles to read and just can consider, do I want to read this article? Is this kind of inside of what I want to learn about mental health? I can go, like I said, just to academic journals. Here I'm going to get some research questions that are then paired with pieces of information. And again, you have to go through and look at some of these. Impact of a distinct mental health care plan on suicidality among patients with depression and alcohol use disorder in Nepal. Sounds super interesting. Probably not something, if I'm an Afton student, that I'm interested in this much detail, right? That's probably too much detail for me. Can general practitioners manage mental health disorders in primary care? A partially randomized pragmatic cluster trial? Again, probably not for me if I'm an Afton student. If I go to magazines, however, experts fear suicide deaths of despair will rise in the wake of COVID-19. This is probably one that's right inside of what we're talking about, right? So if you want to look at mental health in the time of COVID, then you're definitely going to be finding something interesting there. Again, I'm just seeing some COVID articles here and there about mental health. So we can look in a lot of different places. The other thing that I like about Opposing Viewpoints, I can pull just statistics. So I can pull just reports that have been made. Again, this isn't on teenagers, but here we go. Youth mental health ratings by state from 2018. 2018 is only a couple years ago, so I like this. And here we go. Here's our mental health rankings. Well, at least we're the second lowest in the state of Missouri. So there's some stuff that I like about this. I'm not sure where all of this information comes from or how it's pulled. That's going to be down here in my source information. I don't like that I don't have to read anything, so I don't really understand how it's been pulled or anything like that. But it is a nice little snapshot for me to understand something. We should probably talk a little bit about just how to go ahead and work with Opposing Viewpoints. So if I were to sign in using my good old Afton Google address and allow it to work with me, I can send myself through Google Drive, or I can send myself through email. Any of the works that I'm finding on Opposing Viewpoints. So I can save those, which of course is going to be really important. You want to save anything that you have ultimately to the inquiry folder that you're making for this class. You even have the ability to go back and get a full citation, an MLA 8th edition citation, which of course, if you remember from the past, making citations is kind of difficult. This is going to do all of that work for you Whereas if you went to that Google search, we wouldn't get all that good information. Just to reiterate, kind of get us back to some things that are really important. If I go to browse issues and I wanted to look for that youth changing things in America, right, or that youth change topic, I am probably not going to hear something that says something like youth topic or youth for change or anything like that. I'm not going to get something that clear cut here. What I am going to find are issues on like Black Lives Matter. What I am going to find are issues on LGBT state rights and state laws, right? What I am going to find are student rights, student activism, and free speech, right? So I might have to work a little bit to find something that's connected to me to understand what some of these things mean. But it's worth that. That's part of the process as well. I have to learn something to then understand what it means a little further down the line.